Welcome back to another week at Drone DJ, and this week we've got the entire lineup of DJI controllers. Let's talk about prices, compatible drones, and more. Um, Kirk, I guess first question: what happened last Friday? Tell us the
Uh,
story.
yeah. So I went to Virginia for work for the other side space explorer. There's a rocket launch, and it kept getting delayed. So our bright idea was let's go to DC. But we're already a weekend trip turned into like a 2 week trip. So we're gonna do it on a budget. So we found a nice cheap hotel, not knowing the area. I went to the wrong city with the right car, and my wheels got stolen.
That's just the wheels.
Just the wheels. They were just looking for the wheels. It's funny. I had the mini. I had like the mini 3 was in there. Like I had like a bunch of like because we got in super late. I didn't really unpack my car. All my camera equipment was in there. No one touched it. They could kill
And
us
they
with the
only
eight
took the
thousand
wheels.
dollars. Yeah, I had like $8,000 worth of camera equipment, but they're just like, ah, no, we'll take the $2,000 wheels.
Well, I guess there's the silver lining.
Yeah, so it was it's been a trip. My car's still in DC. I'm waiting for it to be able to fly back down and pick it up. But yeah, at least I'm back home where I can work normal. I'm not stuck in DC for Christmas.
So I guess that's the story because we were supposed to do this last Friday. And long
Yeah.
story short, we've got the entire lineup from DJI controllers. And again, being the geek, I did the whole spreadsheet comparing the different specs, prices, everything. So let me just quickly show everything I have. Just give a rundown on the controllers, and Kirk, you can fill me in on the notes that I missed or could
Hmm.
miss. So I have the N1 controller. That's currently, I guess, the current, still being sold controllers is the starting point, right? Then we have the DJI RC controller, which is the next level up with built-in screen. And to take it to the next step, I also have the RC Pro controller right there. After that, I also have one more, which is the RC Plus controller for the
And, and
enterprise.
on, and on the other end of size wise, I have one that you don't,
I didn't get that.
and that
My
oh,
serial
I
number.
love it. My Siri went off right before recording too with the question. I still can't find a name for this
Oh,
controller.
that's
It's
the
for
one
the
I'm missing, and I don't even know
Yes,
the
it's
name
for
for
the mini.
that.
You can still find these out in the wild if you buy a mini SE. So, but this is like very limited. I don't think they work with mini controllers anymore. But you might find it. It's actually not that bad. I don't mind flying with it.
I also have one more.
Oh, I thought that was the last one you had. Oh, and that one. That's right. The FPV
The
controller.
FPV controller 2 and the motion controller. So that's just for the FPV drones. Okay, so first, let me share my lovely spreadsheet.
I'm looking forward to seeing the spreadsheet. You didn't send it to me beforehand, so I'm looking forward to it. Oh, nice. Good old Excel.
Look, I color coded.
Love it.
Prices. You know what? Surprisingly, some of the prices were difficult to find because not all of them are sold on their own. So N1,
Mhm.
a couple of surprises to me is N1 controller and the DJI RC. It's only a $10 price difference.
Yeah, I guess seeing the prices next to each other, I didn't realize that. But I mean, they are pretty. I mean, I guess only $10 for a controller. That's really not that bad of a deal.
No, but my note on that is if you want to do an add-on screen, right?
Hmm.
If you're not happy with the 5.5-inch screen on the DJI RC, which I have seen, then you could get the N1 controller and get they do have an iPad mount on here. So
Yep.
you could put a 10-inch iPad on there. So if you really want to
Hmm.
go for bigger screen, then that's the one to go for. And if you put an iPad on there, then obviously, um, one sec, then it is, yes, for third-party app. So if you want to run third-party apps, especially say if you use the Air 2S, which this is compatible with, or Mini 2, because Lychee is also compatible with Mini 2. So if you want to use third-party apps, then you do need a separate pad or a phone to run the third-party app with the N1 controller. So those are the pros. But obviously, if you like, really easy, quick to start, then the DJI RC is the lowest price you can get that has a built-in screen. So 5.5-inch built-in screen, not the most bright screen you can find. But if you're just starting off, you're getting your Mini 3 or Air 2S or Mavic 3 Classic, this does have a built-in screen to get started. It doesn't have HDMI out compared to RC Pro. I do
which always confuses. It does have 2 USB-C ports. So, and I don't think we've ever figured out what the other second USB-C port. I mean, I'm sure it's in somewhere deep into the instruction manual what it does.
I do like you can connect this to a third, basically a separate monitor running the HDMI. So it helps, especially if you do cine work, right? If you're doing filming work and you don't want your clients breathing down your shoulder looking at your 5.5-inch screen, then through the HDMI, run a separate monitor and get them their own room to look at the monitor screen instead of bothering you when you're flying, right?
Get them a nice heated tent if you're doing it in the winter, a nice big heater.
So that's the plus with the RC Pro. Also, RC Pro, you can run third-party app versus the DJI RC. You won't be able to run third-party app. So that's also the difference. Battery life, however, the RC Pro is going to drain a little more battery. So what we've done in the past is, when we're out there for a job, we actually just run the charging cable to our on-site battery and just keep it charging. Otherwise, you'll run out of battery pretty quickly.
Which surprised me, which is a little bit surprising that the RC has more battery life than the Pro. And honestly, that 4 hours is it's a little deceiving. So you think that's not a lot of time, but amount of times you'd be out there with flying for more than 4 hours. If you're not doing it professionally, if you're doing it professionally, 100%, you would be out there longer than 4 hours. But for just recreational wise, you'll never go down that battery life. You're just going out there for an hour, unless you're doing it all day.
I have pilots who do real estate and they're hitting different locations in one day. So when they get in the car, they remember to plug in the multi-charger and start charging batteries. But oftentimes they forget to charge their controller. That's very common, right? Then they run off battery on the controller. So that's something to consider too. Now, just to sideway a little bit before we come back to talk a little more on the controllers, is the RC has a enterprise version that works with the Mavic 3 Enterprise and the Mavic 3 Thermal. The only difference between the Enterprise RC Pro and the regular is that the Enterprise one has microphone, because the Mavic 3 Enterprise has the microphone add-on, so you can speak to it, right? And that's my new, let me tell you, that's my new favorite thing. I've been testing it last month. We even had, for our Christmas party, when the guests were coming in, we actually had our Mavic 3 Enterprise with the megaphone out there playing, playing Christmas songs and greeting them out in the parking lot. So it was really cool. And when we have events, then I get to actually fly the Mavic 3E down the field and tell people the next demo is happening at which station. So I'm loving it. That's why, but that's the only difference from the RC Pro Enterprise. It's just
I need to come up for one of those events just to witness, just sitting somewhere flying a drone having fun, and all of a sudden just a drone fly up to me and start talking to me.
It's people's impression. I love people's impression, especially the ones they never seen the drone flying when they come out for the first time. It's really cool, and they don't know that they can't talk to the drone, right?
Oh, that's right. There's some from the drone.
No, you need a very specialized one that can pick up actually the sound from the ground. So it's very funny when you see people try to talk to the drone.
Did I say? I think I sent you the photo of the thing I found at DJI's Airworks. It has it's a big boom. It's a really big boom that comes off the
really big boom. I'm you know what? I've got to test that one of these days, because I don't know what the distance actually works. It's got to be, right? And what happens if it's a bit of wind, because that's a sailing effect. So if you get a bit of wind, it's gonna start picking up the wind.
Start going back and forth. Yeah.
Okay, now
the RC Plus, which has to be one of the most satisfying controllers to hold.
And guess what? Under specs, it says very precisely 7.02 inch for the screen, not 7-inch, 7.02.
You can't miss those. You can't miss those last digits.
No.
I was surprised when I picked this up how actually it's not that. I mean, I could definitely see it would be uncomfortable to hold for long periods of time with the weight, but it's not bad. And you could totally get around using it, for an hour maybe, and not really having to have a strap on it or put it down or anything
Yeah,
like that.
we are trying to build a tripod mount with this, put it on the tripod, or get the custom-made Pelican case. So
Yep.
this can just stay in the case, and then have the Pelican case actually with a tripod mount. So that's very common too. This on the battery, because it has external battery. So you get 6 hours with internal and external. So DJI used to have that for. I actually love the idea. They used to have that for those. You remember those white Phantom 4 controllers? So when they were still selling the Phantom 4
The
RTK,
big white plastic ones,
so the Phantom 4 Enterprise controllers had a swappable battery. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense to have like one internal, one swappable. Just
So
for
basically
the
you
quick
could,
change.
you can just open this up and then you can swap the battery. So to me, I thought, that was brilliant. I don't know why they never did that for the consumer versions. Even, imagine the RC Pro just to have a swappable battery on there.
If there's one thing I would love to see from like a second generation of RC Pro or RC is would be a swappable battery.
Yeah.
I don't know if they could get around doing it placement wise with the RC, but the RC Pro makes a lot of sense that they could probably do
and
that.
Because the Matrix 30 is supposed to be weatherproof, water resistant, so actually on all the controller ports, they all have proper cover.
Yep. Yeah, you're technically you should be able to walk outside in a storm and be able to still use those things. So.
Well, it is designed for public safety.
Yeah.
So if someone has to rescue people in the storm or look for certain rescue in the rain, that's what it's designed for. But separately, later on, our next topic, we'll talk about DJI user manual and the level of information accuracy on the user manual. That's a separate story.
Yeah.
Even just looking at the prices and the operating time and the various specs on the controllers, it was actually different across the board. On DJI's own website, it was listing, let's say, I believe the RC Pro controller, they actually don't have Mini 3 Pro on there, but they actually support Mini 3 Pro.
Then what you got also FPV.
Yes, FPV. This is the FPV controller too. So this is compatible with both the original FPV drone and Avata. Personally, like this was actually the hot item. It was a difficult item to get after Avata was released. But I love this controller because if you use the motion controller, right, you can only, as we talked about in the review, you can only point and shoot. So it's fine if you're just starting off flying the FPV drone and if you have a big enough space. But if you want to maneuver the drone around, then the motion controller wouldn't do that. So you still need the old school joystick methods with the FPV2 controller. You can get this for $199. Obviously, there's no built-in screen, but from the goggles. So from the
you wouldn't really be needing one with the goggles.
But you know what? We did run the HDMI data cable out from the goggles and put it onto just the pad or TV. Because when we fly, I mean, first of all, legally speaking, if you fly FPV, you have to have a spotter out there. Second of all, when we're flying it, it's usually like not just one person flying, but you have a team, someone racing, having something fun. It's almost like watching sports. Just that one person flying through the goggles is not fun. Everybody else watching it is the fun part. So we're always connected to a separate monitor, and people can actually watch what's happening. Now, also no third-party app, obviously, on the FPV controller, and for the motion controller, it's a bundle only. I couldn't find the price for the standalone motion controller. I guess if someone loses one and asks DJI for price, that's when we'll find out.
Yes.
Did I miss any controllers?
You got the motion, you got the controller, and then I did find the only name I can find for this for the Mini SC, the old controller, is the right for it, the MR1SS5. That's the only model number. It's the model number. It's the only thing I could find that different other than just being called the Mavic Mini remote controller.
That's a lovely, lovely name.
And it goes for a whopping $67 on Amazon.
$67. Okay.
But out of all like the basic controllers we have, like of course I think the N1 takes the king in the industry for like the best smartphone controller out there. It's very well balanced. Nothing's blocking the controller screen or anything like that. I think for a close second, you have like I think this does actually go for like one of the better smartphone controllers.
I remember when the N1 controller came out, there were a lot of comments in the industry about what was the name of that controller?
The MR1SS5. How do you not remember? It rolls right off the tongue.
Okay, I need to find a nickname for that. Anyway, so when N1 controller just came out, I remember there were a lot of comments on the old controller. You put the phone or tablet at the bottom, right? Versus the N1 controller is when you put the phone or the tablet mount on the top. So I remember a lot of people weren't liking that. That took some time getting used to.
Well, if it's done properly though, I think DJ has done that properly. Like it is so well balanced in your hands. It doesn't tip over. Like other controllers.
And also when building screen controller just came out. Actually, you know what? I do have this is the smart controller.
Yes.
So that's pre
the ones that with the antennas that tilt down rather than up.
Yes. Yeah. So when this just came out, people were also complaining that if you put your hands, then you're constantly touching the screen, right? Your palm would accidentally touch the screen.
Can't have you couldn't win. No one could win.
like in time, you learn to work with it.
Yep. Yeah, like I touched the screen a lot on my RC when I first started using it, and that was the first first in-screen controller that I used. So, but you got used to it. Like you just get used to it. And this is, I mean, all of them. Every DJI controller I've ever used, everything feels well balanced. It feels like well built, and like you can't really. I don't think there's really anything you really can complain about after using it for a long period of time.
I believe from the N1 controller and either the DJI RC or the RC Pro, they have a shortcut buttons C1 and C2 at the back, which you can program. So we usually program to be tilting down, right? And then now there's the new cruise control function, so you can also program to have the cruise control function.
That's what I have to do. Your cruise control and tilt down, they're just so nice to have on the back.
You don't have that for N1 controller, so you miss a few things here.
Yeah, I guess $10 gives you shortcut buttons and a built-in screen. That's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons. I mean, ultimately, every time I have students or customers coming in looking at a drone, I always tell them, try the feel of the controllers, right? It's one thing to know the specs, but also the feel and just your hand size. Does the ergonomics work for you? That's actually important because personally, I just don't like the feel of the DJI RC. A lot of people like it. A lot of people prefer this than the RC Pro. But personally, I felt the handling, like how this felt. I prefer the RC Pro.
I think I agree with you. Like I think the RC Pro is a better feeling controller in the hands. I think they're pretty similar joystick wise, maybe a little bit nicer on the Pro, but not much. Everything feels the same between the RC and RC Pro, except for the weight and the feel in the hands. You have more grip, I think, to hold on to. But this just fits into everything. Like this is just so nice to carry on with you when you're just flying around. I can fit this inside one little pouch. That's probably that's the size of the Mini 3 drone in my camera bag. Instead of bringing two cameras, if I don't need two cameras, I usually
one more note. I believe the transmission range on this is not the same.
No, that's true. And there's people who do have some issues, who've run into some issues with interference much more than the RC. But if you're not flying any of those areas, I could fit this in a tiny little pouch in my camera bag. Instead of bringing two cameras, I can bring a camera and a drone.
Oh,
and it makes my life so much better.
What's the other thing we learned? It's when we had the enterprise drones, either the M3E or Matrix 30. Like Matrix 30, it actually interferes with Mini 3 or Mini 2 or some of the previous gen, like substantially.
Interesting.
Of course, one of the flights actually for like Mini 3 just automatically said, lost connection, I'm coming home to land.
Interesting. That I can see why that would happen, because you probably, if you're doing search and rescue,
is much stronger.
You're gonna have a much stronger signal on that to make sure you don't lose connection.
But when we had Mavic 3, with the RC Pro in the air, it didn't have interference.
I wonder if were you using the RC with the Mini?
We were using the RC. We were using the DJI RC with the Mini.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, it's probably not as strong. Yep.
Yeah, and even back in like Phantom 4 time, we had similar issues when Phantom 4 was on, and some of the smaller, like the previous gen smaller drones were on. they also had interference. So it's interesting when you have multiple drones in the same area, and you can actually see the hierarchy of the frequency.
And I don't think I don't think either of us would ever condone this, but I have seen it in Facebook groups that people do drill out to put some drills in there and attach their own external.
I've seen that one of the drone retailers in town, they actually do the modification. They were doing it even on the old Phantom 4. So they were actually able to mount external. So on that note, okay, here's the Easter egg before we wrap up. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for it. Blow my mind. Hey, look at that. Is that for your Phantom?
Is that for my Phantom?
That's what is it? No, that's not.
That's for the octocopter we were flying.
Octocopter, okay.
Yeah, so this is the.
It looked right from the back. That's a black Phantom controller.
It's a Futaba.
until you went to turn around the other way, I'm like, oh, that's not a Phantom controller at all.
And just look at the antennas.
Oh my gosh.
We actually have different ones, so you can take this off and then put different antennas.
Some serious. That's a serious rig right there. That's some serious drone flying right there, which I do not do.
So modification wise, you can modify the antennas on your controller for sure. I mean, you can change it to omnidirectional. You can put more than one on, right? We had 4 on that back then. So that's the Easter egg for everyone. Well, here's the entire lineup of the DJI controllers. And if you're still looking for last minute shopping, on any drone options, I hope they serve as.
We might have some at Best Buy still.
Yeah, I hope they serve as a good reference. And if you're not in the eastern part of, either states or Canada, if you're not affected by storm and still able to make it into a retail shop,
I still haven't been able to write my Mini 3 review yet because I haven't been able to fly it yet. Because I got it, went to DC, and like the airspace, you're not gonna fly. I had to drive like 2 hours to find good airspace, and then I come back and it's a -9. Like that's not gonna go well.
Well, we have 100 kilometers an hour of wind, and already how many? Close to 20 centimeters of snow, and it's still snowing.
Yeah, our snow at least stopped. We only got like a couple inches, so. That's not that bad, but oh man, that wind chill is just brutal.
This is our last episode before Christmas, so we'll come back next week on the recap of drone news of 2022. So wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all back here next week.
Oh.